Hey, we're here. We're back. It's Monday. Weekend. Survived. What more can you ask for? Strangest weather day on it's weird right now. It's like almost 70 degrees and it's so windy. I just Mary Poppins shit to work. I'm like, and like all the shit from winter is just like blowing down the streets. It's wild. It's a wild scene. Like just soda cans. I just stopped at the bank after work and this like 4 soda cans. Like small children were no, there was no small children were harmed because of the wind. Chill the fuck out. It's Monday, people. It's Monday, and we're keeping it exciting. Big show today. Dr. J. LaGuardia is back on the program after a 2-week hiatus. Lots to talk about with him today. Dr. J. Not that Dr. J. The other Dr. J. He's coming up in about 10 minutes. Stand by for that. And a sports broadcasting legend, Mr. Bill Michaels is going to be on the program. That's coming up at about 5:45 today. We'll talk to Bill about his radio. We're going to talk about Packers and the Brewers and the Bucks and the Badges. Barry Alvarez is retiring. That's crazy. I think Barry Alvarez has been around Wisconsin for since the 90s, right? I'll ask Bill. He'll know. He'll know the exact date. So exciting show. Lots to talk about in the world after a pretty decent weekend. Lots accomplished this weekend. Ripped some fencing out. That was fun. Now I have to put fencing back in, which I'm sure is a fun project. Like the removal of a fence is one thing, but like putting it in back into the ground seems like it's a whole nother adventure. So that was my life. So over the weekend, I don't usually take a lot of like maybe Sunday nights we'll chill and we'll throw on, kind of a mindless movie to tap out from the weekend. We were super productive this weekend though. But we're scanning through I think it was Amazon Prime. And we caught the preview of the show called No Safe Spaces. Adam Carolla and Dennis Prager. And so we it went in like, oh, we're just going to watch something that's completely mind-numbing. And then we stumbled upon No Safe Spaces. I think it came out in 2018. Adam Carolla and Dennis Prager. It is, if you haven't seen it, put it on your watch list. No Safe Spaces. I'm just saying. I knew there was like some crazy shit that was going on, especially on like campuses and universities and stuff across the country. But some of the things that they brought to light, I was like, oh, what? Like, wait, what? I feel like there was unbalance in the force. But if you haven't seen it, go and check it out. No Safe Spaces, Adam Carolla and Dennis Prager are on that one. But it was a good weekend overall. I see Dr. J is hanging out in the green room. He's ready to bring all sorts of knowledge to the folks. Dr. J, welcome back, sir. How you doing?
Great, Coop. How are you today, buddy?
It's a strangely beautiful day in Wisconsin. It's like 70 degrees. And, if you wanted to fly a kite, today's the day.
Yeah, you might need 3 or 4 people to hang on to that kite.
It's ridiculous. This is that weird time of year that you get those little teases of those 60-degree days. And you're like, you go outside, you're like, yeah, all right, we're back. It's time to get some things done. Enjoy it. And then all of a sudden it's like 40 and then it snows and then it's 70 and it's windy. And then tomorrow it's 40 and it's the schizophrenic part of Wisconsin's spring/late winter.
That's why we love living it here, isn't it?
That's it. It truly gives us gratitude and appreciation for those 2.5 months of summer that we get. We're like, man, those are great days.
Yeah, it's the unpredictability about it.
How was your weekend, sir? Anything productive? I'm sure you got after it and kicked some people's asses at F45 and did all the good things.
I actually flew down to Florida this weekend for 3 days and hooked up with my brother and some friends, and we played golf for 3 days. So it was a lot of fun.
You need those days. Don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was good hanging out, and the weather was great. Man, when you're down there, the world is normal. I mean, the amount of people and people just doing their thing and living life was good to see.
And that's always been the thing about Florida, because for the most part, Florida's not had any restrictions. They've been pretty much open. They have one of the older demographics as far, as age goes down there. It's obviously a big retirement area for people, even snowbirds. I mean, a population that increases during the winter months because people get the hell out of places like here and they go golf in Florida for 3 days. But it's always been open. They held a Super Bowl with 25,000 people, even more outside of the stadium. They held obviously the Super Bowl party. They had, spring break. I know there was some issues, but it seemed like when they were running the stories, it was standard spring break stuff, but the media was putting this twist on it, like, oh, well, it's, COVID. And I'm like, no, that's just what spring break looks like down in Miami. But good for Florida, man. They're still after it. That's good.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of people from different parts of the country, and they were just excited to get out and start living life again. And, no one was in fear. People who want to wear masks and do whatever they needed to do, they did it. And, the rest of people were just doing their thing. And I guess that's what America is about. At least the last I remember, that's what it was about.
That's what it's supposed to be about. It's in one of those that whole Bill of Rights thing, the amendments. I don't know. There's like the first one. I think it's pretty important. That was the whole. Have you seen No Safe Spaces before with Adam Carolla and Dennis Prager?
I've heard about it. I have not seen. I just made a note listening to you talk about it. I'm going to put it on my watch list.
It was one of those things, like I was saying, we kind of went into, like, it was a long weekend. We did a bunch of stuff, super productive. We got a lot of new business adventures that I'm working on because it's the grind, man. You understand. But then we're like, let's watch something completely mind numbing. And then the preview comes on for this No Safe Spaces, and my girlfriend and I are like, whoa, we need to invest, the hour and a half in that. It's very interesting. If we were just talking about, obviously, First Amendment, people having the right to do kind of what they want to do. And it's a scary scenario with the generation that's perusing college campuses these days. So a definite must watch. When you watch it, let me know. We'll discuss on the program.
Yeah, I look forward to it. It's that parchment paper that was written nearly 240 something years ago now, The Pursuit of Happiness. What an incredible, noble concept.
Yeah. And you hope that people who are in charge of implementing and keeping said things kind of in place, and people having the ability to, pursue that happiness would maybe take it into consideration once in a while. That'd be ideal. I'd like that.
Novel idea.
I think the forefathers had it figured out. We're lacking, man. But wanted to have you on here today and talk a lot, as much as we can, about kind of what you do as far as your coaching and working with entrepreneurs and stuff like that. The reason I bring it up is not completely self-serving, but I mean,
only partly.
Just a little. Having the beard company, having this show, which has gotten some real good legs. We had a huge week last week. It was nuts with numbers and stuff like that. We're launching Cooperville Clothing Company in a couple of weeks. So we have all these things going on top of working, 7-8 hours a day at a part full-time job. And so this becomes like one of the 4 side hustles. So one of the things I wanted to open with you is when you are talking to your clients and you're coaching these people, what are some keys to balancing everything out in that hustle game? Because everybody wants this instantaneous, like, ROI. Like, I put the work in. Now, boom, here comes return on investment. But the balance portion of it is so important, because if you're hustling, usually you have more than one thing going on. You're working on this, and then you got this idea. Like, how do you teach balance when it comes to, giving the appropriate time to all things that can lead to success?
Yeah, it's a great question that lacks a specific formula. But I will say that, because balance is an illusion as it relates to, okay, I'm going to spend 7 hours a day. If I got a side hustle that I'm working towards, hopefully making my full-time gig while I'm still working so I can pay the bills. I got a family. I want to take care of my health. It's not like I spend 6 hours doing this, 6 hours doing this, 6 hours doing this. it's about finding time throughout the day to engage, spend a little time with the family. And maybe, you know, on a Monday, it's an hour at dinner, you know, and then, you know, I may work out in the morning, get some work on my fitness. So my mental and physical well-being is sharp so I can perform at a high level. So the hours that I'm working on my side hustle are highly productive. So I can move along, you know, and move towards my goal as quickly as possible. So number one, it's about really identifying your most key important values in life, right? And making sure you're engaging them as often as you can within your day or within your week. The longer we live incongruent with our values is what leads to high levels of stress. It's been said that the number one source of stress is living incongruent with your values. So if you're somebody who believes in health and fitness, but you know, you never do much to really work on your health and fitness, you're going to have some issues. So we want to make sure that in the time frame as it relates to the day or the week that we do focus on spending a little bit of time. And I will say this when it comes to an entrepreneur who's just launching a new business is you mentioned the word grind, and it's a great word because there is that grind mentality where you may have to spend an inordinate amount of time to begin with. So later you have more freedom. Okay. So it's important to understand that there may not be immediate rewards financially. Some experience it. It's a small percent. But oftentimes that comes down the road from the time and effort you put in up front. So I understand that the time investment often will pay off down the road only if you're willing to truly commit to it and stick to it and not, you know, cave at the first sign of some adversity, because adversity inevitably is going to show up. That's just the way life is.
I actually, just before we came on here, I saw a post. Sean Whalen, I had him on the show last week talking about kind of a lot of these same things about, you know, keeping after it in the hustle. And he just had a post that he put up literally right before we came on. And it was, I'm not chasing money, I'm chasing the freedom.
Yeah.
And I just liken that to what you just said, because it is not necessarily about, you know, putting a dollar amount into the universe and saying that's it. It's, if you can make it more tangible, like I understand that working, you know, getting up at 5 or getting up at 4:30 because health and fitness is a big thing, putting in that work in the morning, doing a full-time job. And then that is, nobody wants to work 20 hours a day. You know, you got to fit some sleep in there. You probably should interact with other human beings. It's just part of the early part of a grind to something like that, but it's not because you're chasing, like, I want to be the CEO of a $1 million company or a $10 million company. It's, I want to be able to work 2 hours a day or something like that, because I want to have that other time to either work with other entrepreneurs, or I want to, you know, go and go golfing in Florida for 3 days, or I want to be able to, you know, work on some other things in my life. That is, I think that seems like more of a, not a vision board type of mentality, but almost like I envision this part of my success is the freedom, not necessarily the money.
It's so important to understand from an entrepreneurial mindset is if you're getting in business or starting a business simply because you want to make money, oftentimes that's going to lead to a sense of emptiness and lack of fulfillment. Because money in of itself, I know many of your listeners are going to really question this next statement. Money in of itself is not a strong motivator. It's just not. Science has proven that to be the fact. It's the pursuit of, and we use this word, and I don't want to use it flippantly, but it's the pursuit of purpose as it relates to what is it, product or service, that I'm going to be able to create that's going to make someone else's life better. And if I can do that and create immense value around that proposition, then the end result is creating joy for other people. And the fact is, money is only created when value has been created. So in other words, I was just writing some copy for this specifically for a show, is that value is the exchange of money. Is when you create great value for people in a product or service, they're going to pay you a fair, reasonable wage or price for that product or service. So if you're looking just to make money, oftentimes it fails miserably because it doesn't sustain from a motivation standpoint long enough, or you just don't reap the rewards soon enough to stay in the game. But if you're pursuing a purpose that makes a difference in other people's lives, then you get both. You get the personal satisfaction, which is the motivator, and you get the financial reward that brings ultimately the financial freedom and flexibility to hop on a plane on a Thursday night and go play golf for 3 days. You know what I mean? But you're right, man. Freedom and flexibility. When I talk to entrepreneurs, what is it that you want? And those two words are what I hear most frequently.
How important is it to have the thing that you're doing in your business? A lot of times these things self-align themselves just because of the fact that if you have the cojones, by the way, this isn't a PG show. If you have the balls, or if you have the wherewithal to be like, I'm going to go into business, usually that tends to go into something that you enjoy doing, like you have a passion for. Sometimes it's not necessarily that, it is that money chase. Like, I know that there is a path to financial success or financial freedom in going in this direction, even though it's something I'm not really passionate about doing. How important is it to have something as your side, start as your side hustle to become your long game, career or your long-term life, to have it be something that you are indeed passionate about, invested in, and, have something that you wake up and go, damn, yeah, I'm really happy I get up and do this thing today.
When you have that passion, that inherent passion for whatever it is that you're pursuing, it makes the tough days not so tough. It allows you to face all the obstacles that you are going to face. And by the way, adversity is an opportunity for growth. So many people look at adversities as obstacles in a way as a negative. And when you see adversity as a negative, you only get more adversity. But when you see adversity as opportunity to grow to the next level, it completely shifts the mindset of how we deal with it. In other words, we're able to easily find solutions or surround ourselves with people that can help us solve the problem to get to the next level. But when we see it as a roadblock and something negative, inevitably, in most cases, it's going to cause us to freeze in our track and then create self-doubt. So passion's everything, because if you love what you're doing, it becomes easier.
You mentioned people around you, and I know there's been, I think we've talked about this on one of our super early podcasts. I know it's something I've read about. I know you have as well, but you talked about the people that you surround yourself with. Sometimes there's a lot of great analogies out there, like, when there's a crab trying to crawl out of a can, like other crabs will try to pull the crab back down, and even though he's trying to find freedom. How, when you talk about surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, or even people who are, steps above you, there was the saying that if you're like the smartest person in your group of friends, you probably should get some new friends. How important is that? And how do you networking? Is that the key? Like, how do you elevate into a different section, different groups of people, different groups of friends, different groups of like-minded people in order to, kind of sustain success and have people who can answer questions when you have them?
Life is a journey, and on that journey, we're going to come into contact with, just think about your own journey, how many people you've come across, and some have been acquaintances, some have been friends, some have been close friends, some leave, some stay for a lifetime. My experience is that success is directly tied to your relationships. And, the saying is your net worth is tied to your network. And if you are going to transcend and grow, you have to get around higher thinkers. It's just an absolute fact of the universe. You have to. If you find yourself in the same, experience day after day, year after year, it's likely because your network has not grown. When you surround yourself with high thinkers, people who just, have an elevated thought process, it can only cause you to elevate your own thoughts. And remember, thoughts are things. So the higher level thoughts you have, the greater creativity that really emanates from us. So network is everything. And for me, all my success in life has been by the people that I've surrounded myself with, that have taught me everything that I've learned from, relationships and finance and business. I owe to, countless mentors and friends. And it's fun too, to have those level of conversations, because it's just so engaging. And it's just so emotionally and intellectually stimulating. So getting out, talking to people, find somebody who's doing what you want to do. Call them up, say, man, I'd love to take you to coffee. You'd be surprised. My experience is that people who are successful love helping other people become successful. It's one of the misnomers in our culture, is that successful people are selfish and self-centered and, egotistical and only focused on themselves and their money. And I find that to be very, very different. I really do. Because the joy that one gets of helping someone else, because someone helped me up the ladder, and there's no better way to pay that back is to help someone else. And so reach out to somebody who's doing what you want to do. Call them, take them for coffee, find out what are their keys to success, and emulate. I had a mentor say to me once, he said, I'll beg, borrow, plead, and plagiarize if I have to learn how to become successful. And he meant that in a complimentary way. I'll plagiarize and mimic your success and then replicate it in my own life. And I think that's really, really an important lesson.
Yeah, there's a lot of visualizations and things like that where or not even visualization necessarily, but if you see it being done, it means it has been done, and it can be done. It's the 4-minute mile philosophy. Like, nobody will ever break the 4-minute mile until somebody did. Then, like, everybody broke the 4-minute mile. So it's important, I think, to make those find that person or that group of people that is doing things that you want to do at a level that you want to do it at. And yeah, I mean, watchful eyes. Like, oh, I see they do this. I see it's not just about this particular thing with their brand. They're also into, there's a philanthropy aspect of it, or they give back to their community in such and such a way, or they value, their family time is important, and they put that on display. So I think there's a lot of great people out there, and finding somebody who's in your field, that's the easy part. Obviously you kind of have an idea of like, oh man, I want to do this shirt company idea. I kind of like this, but I want it to be my own thing. But there's people out there who are definitely crushing it and emulating, plagiarizing. I like all of it. They're having success with it. Might as well keep going. Now, on those same lines, I know you're a decorated author, and there are so many great books out there about a lot of these kind of things. How much emphasis do you put on feeding your mind with important literature, inspiring literature, really kind of almost parallel to that conversation we just had about people who have done it, and here's like the map of how they did it and the things that they implemented in their life. How important is that to really feed the beast inside of you with those kind of powerful words?
Yeah, it's everything, because you can become inspired by other people's story. If you came to my house, you would see walls full of books, that I've read, and that feed the mind, that stimulate the mind, that elevate your thoughts, biographies and self-help books and whatever, right? It's essential. Either we're growing or we're dying. Mm-hmm. And if you're not stimulating your mind on a consistent basis, I'm in my, I'm in my mid-50s, and I'm going to, my whole perception in life is I'm going to keep learning to the day I die, because there's so much more yet to learn. And the funny thing, you've heard this, right? The more you learn to realize, the less you know.
True.
It's just so crazy. So I would say to your listeners out there, make learning, make reading, make conversations, podcasts a part of every single day. Every day you should try to learn something new, either about yourself or about someone else, that you can take and make you better. You were talking before about mentorship. And I grew up in a home where my parents were divorced. I didn't really know what a successful father or husband looked like. I had no example. And I remember when I got married, I consciously sought out some men who had great relationships, great marriages, great relationships with their children. And I talked to them about it. What does it take to be a great father or a great husband? And I learned from them because I had no example. And if I didn't do that, it was very likely I was going to repeat the steps of the past. And that's, by the way, how you break cycles, right? You've got to reach out and learn from other people. So it's absolutely critical if you truly want to empower yourself to grow your life financially, emotionally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, is to learn every single day.
I'll let you answer. I think I know the answer. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. But is it ever too late? Is it ever too late to get, somebody can have a long career or, do the 8 to 5 thing or be in a certain field and one day wake up and go, I really do not want to be miserable for the rest of my life. And I feel like this particular career is sucking my soul out. And I have this passion, this desire to do something else. Is there an age that you should go, well, maybe you just ride this one out? Or can you, is it any time at any point in life you can just go for it and take life by the short and curlies?
Do you know how many people who were the 8 to 5ers in 2020 left that world and became entrepreneurs? And so many were in their 50s, and had the golden handcuffs, 25 years in this company, 30 years in this company, see the writing on the wall. They say, to hell with it. It's time to pursue my passion. So the answer, of course, is you can start and do it whenever you want. You really can. There's no better time than right now. If you really have something inside you that you're called to do, man, just go do it. Don't allow this illusion of age and time to hold you back, because that's all it is. If you've got the gumption and the passion, and if you've got the network around you, there's no way that you can't be successful.
I think there's been a lot of silver lining with, and you and I obviously were on the same page when it comes to COVID lockdowns and the logic behind them. But the fact that they were in place, the fact that you did have people who were working from home or were without a job, even the musicians that I've talked to who obviously were severely affected by places shutting down and venues being closed and no big gatherings and stuff like that. A lot of them that I talked to took the time during when they would be out on the road doing a tour to learn something else. Like they learned hey, how do I edit video? Like if I wanted to put together something, instead of hiring the video crew to come in and shoot our music video, like what would I need to do it? And how could I just be the guy that does it? And either, for the money saving portion of it or for the fact that they really enjoy doing it. Or obviously songwriting or finding different ways to communicate or, multi-tracking with people online. Like they learned a bunch of different skills during all this. And I imagine it's the same for people in entrepreneurship. You talked about people who were doing 8 to 5 and then they were at home and they're like, I'm just going to go and do my thing. There's this time that people had to really be creative and really learn and really be able to go, hey, this device that I, play Pokemon on or whatever the kids are playing these days. Like there's opportunity not only to start a business with your phone, but also all of the knowledge ever, like everything ever is here on this device. Some people take advantage of that. Some people get lost in social media world. But a lot of people taking this time that they had forcibly to not work to create and do things that they were super passionate about.
It's never been an easier time to be an entrepreneur. This device that you're talking about here affords the opportunity literally within an hour to launch your business. That's how quickly you can do this. And, traditional secondary education, in my opinion, is dying on the vine. In fact, like newspapers, it's already dead. They just haven't, buried the body yet. And my point being is that you can go to YouTube and learn anything you want to do about anything. You want to learn how to be a master chef? Go to YouTube. You want to learn how to be a great podcaster? Go to YouTube. You want to learn how to invest in cryptocurrency? Go to YouTube. So you don't necessarily need that formal education anymore. You can learn a specific skill set. Now, I'm not saying that formal education is bad because it broadens the perspective of the individual. But if you want to go and launch right now, you don't need to go to school. Man, just go again, right? Go find that source and go do it. And like I said, it's never been an easier time to be an entrepreneur. And there's advantages and disadvantages. But the one advantage is that you get to control your own destiny. And I think inherently, as human beings, that's where we really want to be. Most people want to control their own destiny and either sink or swim on their own abilities and not be tied to some sort of corporate entity.
Yeah. And I think if you have, especially right out of the gate, if you have a fear of making that ask of somebody, excuse me, messaging Dr. J or talking to somebody and just being like, hey, like I have this, if you're not quite at the confidence level, you can ask something like that. Ask the Google machine. I did that. I was like, how do I write a business plan? And, 40 million results later and a couple of different great videos. I'm like, oh, like I got it. So all the answers are out there. And again, you're talking about the ability to start business without that formal education. And really most of the information is available for free. So there's not that big chunk investment to go, okay, I don't know how do I file an LLC? How do I trademark my brand? How do I do it? Ask the Google machine. Well, ask DuckDuckGo. Actually, that's the new thing. DuckDuckGo is the search engine that doesn't track all of your stuff if you're, weird like me.
kind of important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see when you go on DuckDuckGo, they always show you like what they're blocking. It's kind of crazy. Like Facebook is blocked, Twitter's blocked, Google's blocked. Like, wow, they really want to know the questions I'm going to answer.
Yeah, and one last point as far as entrepreneurship, if you've got listeners out there that are entrepreneurs, that are business owners, and their business is stuck or stagnant, again, this is sometimes hard to swallow, but it's just a fact. The business is stuck because the leader's stuck. The business can never outgrow its leader. So therefore, if you're feeling like, man, why am I stagnant? Why are my sales down? How come I'm struggling with my team? Why is my turnover so high? How come my profit margins are shrinking? You got to look in the mirror first. One of the key aspects I learned early in life is that once you take responsibility for everything that is in your life, you now have the power to change it. When you give it away to someone else, the government, your neighbor, Google, whatever it might be, you just gave away your authority to change it. So the first rule of leadership is take responsibility for everything in your life. And in business, it's exactly the same.
Great stuff, Dr. J. I always appreciate the insight and the powerful words. I know my mom is on here. I'm gonna throw my mom. She's saying hi from California.
Hey, Diane.
Hey, she's Mom. I won't say your age because there's probably a holiday coming up I want a present for. But she's in older than I am, obviously.
I hope so.
A little bit, a couple of years. It'd be nice to be gentle, but she is starting her own business. She is venturing into doing something that she is super passionate about, and I know takes copious notes whenever you're on, and is doing those kind of same things and like doing the research, finding things online. She'll call me, be like, hey, what do you think about this? So at any age, she's in her 60s and she's like, I'm going to go and start my own business and I don't give a shit what anybody says about it. And she's getting after it, which is awesome.
Dude, that is so cool to hear. Nothing but absolute success, and kudos to your mother for that. And I just want to let your listeners know if they ever have any questions, they always can reach me very simply. Can email me, and it's simple. It's Dr. J, DRJAY at trippleplife.com. Pretty simple.
And check out the podcast, Power, Passion, Prosperity Podcast. Did we ever come up with that? I know you're doing that year in review COVID episode.
Yeah, we're still working. There's just so much stuff to condense it to less than an hour. So we're picking things out, then we're adding. So it's coming. It's coming.
You're right, man. I feel like that could be like a 4-part episode. It's like, you could go on forever on things. It's crazy.
And sometimes I just have to pull away from it because when I get deep into the weeds, it's like, oh, you want to go take a shower.
It's just so dirty and filthy.
It is.
Dr. J, take care of yourself, my friend. We'll chat with you next week, man.
Sounds good. Be well.
Dr. J right there. Like I said, see? Mom, there you go. Best kept secret. Good stuff. Dr. J, always a pleasure to have him on. And follow the podcast, Power, Passion, Prosperity Podcast. Always got great stuff on there. Great information if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're just thinking about it. Like that's the first big step. Is you could be working a 9 to 5, or you could be working some job that you really don't like, or you're doing it because it's what you're supposed to do, but you have this desire to do something else. Like, just start to dabble a little bit. And like you said, add a podcast into your day, add his podcast in your day, add mine into your day, add, Sean and Sachs into your day. Like, there's so many great things out there. You can just plug it in and just pick up on all this great information. And maybe that helps you make the decision like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to go and do my own thing. I'm going to start my own business. Like he said, pick up your phone. You can have a business up and running in an hour. And that's legit. That's the day and age we live in. Technology at its finest. Thanks to Dr. J. Still a big show coming up. Mr. Bill Michaels is going to join us here in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk to Bill about all of the sports things, talk about radio. He had a pretty crazy start to 2021 with a change in scenery and a change in how he was doing things, and a lot of great insight. If you're a streamer as well, he's crushing it on his live streams. Obviously, he's got the radio tie in there as well, and podcasts and all the things, and super active too. Like getting out and being involved in the community and really living to the fullest. So he is coming up at about 5:45, which is about 10 minutes from now. So we're going to take a short break. We'll come back and we'll chat some headlines, and we'll get to Bill Michaels here in just a bit. Stand by. And we're back on Cooperville Live. Again, a big thanks out to Dr. J. LaGuardia for being on the show, talking entrepreneurship and all the stuff. If you want to start your own thing, man's got the insight. Power, Passion, Prosperity podcast as well. He hosts that, and really looking forward to their year in review of COVID-19. It's crazy. So much information. We can't even fit it into to an hour episode. So I don't know. Doing parts, man. It's doing parts. Do like a 4-part series, 4 hours. You probably would have more stuff to cover. Crazy times, though. Crazy times living in. Bill Michael is coming up here in just a couple of minutes. He'll be joining us. We'll talk all things Wisconsin sports, and we'll talk radio. We'll talk streaming. He's into the streaming game now. Killing it. But this was interesting today. And I saw the headline come out, and then I saw the reaction, and it's just wild. Lil Nas X, remember Old Town Road, that guy? Like, first off, I didn't even know he was still around. Like, I was like, oh, like, I figured he was like Los Del Rio. Like, they did the Macarena, and then it was done. I guess not. I guess he's still an important part of the music industry. But he has released an unofficial Satan Nike with real human blood inside of them. Okay. The Satan shoe, unofficial Nike. You won't find them at your local Nike retailer. This story is from Rolling Stone. The design, which features an Air Max 97 silhouette with a bronze pentagram, an inverted cross, and a drop of real human blood, is part of a collaboration between the rapper and a New York-based art collective. The Satan shoes are a tie-in for Lil Nas X's recent Montero Call Me By Your Name music video, in which he gives the devil a lap dance before snapping his neck. I don't know. The design is launching a limited edition drop. I believe they already sold out. I thought I saw that headline. They already sold out, but there were 666 pairs, the number of the beast. And they were priced at $1,018 a pair, in reference to the Bible passage Luke 10:18, which is also printed on the shoe, which reads, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." There you go. There's a biblical reference for today. Now, obviously, there was a ton of fallout and a ton of angst, a lot of anger about this shoe, you know? And I'm like, whatever. Like, you kind of just got to be like, whatever. You can't get upset about Mr. Potato Head and, Gina Carano, and then not be mad about that. Like, you had to just be like, yeah, it's fine. Freedom of expression, do your thing, whatever. It's weird. Like, do I want to have a pair of Nikes that have human blood in them? No. Am I down with the whole Satan thing? Nah. No. Nike was like, these are not ours. Nike was like, no, these are not our shoes. This was a collaboration between him and these guys that take our shoes and redesign them. Like, this is not our shoe. You can't. No. Nike was distancing themselves from that. Like, interesting for Nike to take a stance on something when legitimately they could just, take them to court, but it's neither here nor there. But you kind of just have to, like, it may upset you, but you kind of got to be like, whatever, par for the course. If if we are going to but maybe not. Maybe par for the course is like cancel that guy. Maybe that's par for the course. Maybe that's even Stevens. Like, huh? Cancel Cara Dune? We're gonna cancel Lil Nas X. Like, really, I that was the biggest shocking part of the story for me. Was I'm like, I didn't even know dude was still around. I figured he got his hit song, took his money, and went. I guess not. Smash your toe and you'll have blood in your shoe. See? Got to wear them steel toes, Joe. Got to wear those steel toe boots, man. That's what I'd have, some steel toed Chucks. If anybody's ever wants to do a custom shoe, a Cooperville Live custom shoe, it's going to be a Chuck and it's going to have steel toe in it. It just makes sense, right? Because that's usually, it's either work boots or Chucks. And my work boots are actually like tack boots. So, because you never know. When you're preparing for the zombie apocalypse, you never know. Or if you're painting a building, you never know. That'd be kind of cool. I kind of like that idea now. I kind of want to have my own custom shoe. Like Chuck Taylor with the new logo on it. Steel toe. Just cuz. It's always something. I'm always kicking shit. I don't know what that is all about. The dog bone. I think the dog actually purposely puts the bone in front of my foot, so I kick it. Pretty sure that's what's happening. But I don't know. Yeah, the shoe sold out. 666 pairs at $1,018 a piece. I feel like there's a better investment of your money, but I mean, maybe there's a lot of collectors out there. Is that the thing? Like, if you're a collector of shoes, you're like, I got all the weirdest shoes. But over $1,000 for a pair of sneakers? And whose blood is in there? Like, is it Lil Nas X? Is it his blood? Oh, it's, I don't know. We bleed for our art. I mean, okay. If it makes you happy, then who are we to judge? It's giving the devil a lap dance? Like, what? Like, wait, what? That's new. Just found it odd. And he's like, and then he's got like, he's rocking the contacts, that like they look like cat contacts now. Is that's still a thing too? I'm just out of the loop. Apparently, I'm out of the proverbial loop on what is hip and cool. If the eye thing, the contacts are still in, and blood in your shoes, unlike what Joe said, when you smash your foot, then you have blood in your shoes. But they're putting a drop inside of the bubble in the Nike. Not sure. But again, hey, it's art, What are you going to do? It's just art. Oh. So there's more things going on in the world of Facebook and Congress. Mark Zuckerberg. And the story comes from Inc.com. So I guess they're doing some more of these. They're still talking about the insurrection from January 6th, right? Still talking about it. And so as part of that investigation, they are bringing all these tech CEOs in to talk about, do you think that your platform, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, was helping to purvey information to people who could potentially become crazy stupid? And so, and this the crux of the story is like, well, here's why people hate tech CEOs is because they kind of give these aloof answers, like, well, never actually answering the question. In a question from Representative Jan Skowowski regarding the spread of misinformation leading up to the riot on the Capitol on January 6th, she asked Mr. Zuckerberg, would you admit that Facebook played a role? Zuck's reply, Congresswoman, certainly I think there was content on our services, Mr. Zuckerberg responded. From that perspective, I think there is further work we need to do to make sure our services and moderation are more effective. The story from Inc. says there are two problems with this answer. The first is obvious. Everyone thinks that Facebook played a role. And it seems like Zuckerberg's, the company's algorithm amplified misinformation and divisive content, putting it in the front of people who are most likely to respond the way they did on January 6th. Second, Zuckerberg's response isn't even an answer to the question she was asking. Instead, he reverts to the passive voice saying there was no content on our services, but denying that Facebook should be responsible in any way for either the content or what happened. I'll see you a Facebook and I'll raise you a Parler. They shut that shit down like that in a day, less than a day. They're like, bad things. Boom, off the App Store, off Google, off Amazon services. Boom, done. Yet Zucks is over here just like, I don't know. There's probably some stuff out there. We got to do a better job. Just looking uncomfortable. This is wild. Like when do we just like understand and admit like it's all a game, right? Like it's all part of a game. Everybody's playing it. Nobody's not going. Well, I guess there are some people who have given up the book. But 3 billion people still on the daily. Just checking in, seeing what other people are eating, finding out when the next war is starting. And you can never really find, there's like occasionally like a good story will pop up and I'll save it and I'll bring it up. But like for the most part, like the shit they put up on Facebook, as far as like news stories go, they could actually get shared. It's weird because it's definitely not targeted towards me. It gets things that really just like, this really shouldn't be something that I would receive. But alas, here we are. I'm receiving it. I don't quite understand. Maybe I'm anti-algorithm. But occasionally stories like this pop up. Occasionally. This comes from the Daily Star. Now, I'm not 100% sure of the journalistic integrity of the Daily Star. I'm sure that they're doing what they can, to get the stories out. A time traveler claims to have gone 6 years into the future where humans are extinct. TikTok user Javier claims he's traveled to the year 2027, where humanity has become extinct. He shows his followers the new reality where the world is void of human activity. What? He claims to have traveled 6 years into the future. He told his followers he jumped to 2027, where no humans are around, but buildings, cars, and utilities remain in their place unused. The social media user posted his first video on February 13th, claimed he was in the year 2027 and walks through an empty street before Recording cuts to an empty clothing store. Although the shop in the Spanish city of Valencia is stacked full of items, there are no humans around. After his initial post, he has regularly shared videos with his 1.2 million followers. Each clip is completely void of human activity, with no souls seen around. However, necessities like electricity and internet connections seem to still be available for the time traveler to be able to upload the videos. That's interesting. So, like, the Wi-Fi still works? Like, everything else is shut down, but we still got Wi-Fi? We still got Wi-Fi and power? Seems odd, doesn't it? Yeah, Matt. If we're all going to be extinct by 2027, now's the time. Screw that credit rating. Who cares? Apparently nobody. But if you're lucky enough to be able to jump, as I already said, he jumped to 2027. No DeLorean, no flux capacitor, nothing. Just jumped. That is a leap of faith. Like, the Wi-Fi is going to go out, right? Like, nobody's around. Shit fails. Like, nobody's like, oh, I guess I gotta fix it. Maybe he fixes. I don't know. Power grid's still good. People gone. Power grid's still good. Maybe that's it. Maybe he is the real life version of Will Smith. Not the first time, by the way, apparently, that people have talked about traveling through time on TikTok. 1.2 million people follow this fella. 1.2 million souls roaming the earth currently, because in 2027 we're gone. Just hanging out, roaming the earth. Right? Like what? Like, wait, what? I follow this guy. He jumped to the future. Did he? Quantum leap. Al, smoking a cigar. Probably can't do it on television anymore, Jeremy. But yeah, Scott Bakula. Anybody under the age of 40 is like, what? Quantum leap? Look it up, kids. It's probably on Amazon Prime. It's probably on Pluto. Free television app. You watch all the old bad shows. They're all on there. Pluto, free app. Download on your smartphone today. They don't pay me to say that. I'm just telling you. If you want to get lost in stuff, there you go. Download the Pluto app on your TV. But I just okay. So the guy claims he can travel through time. That's cool. The fact that 1.2 million people follow him is a little concerning, right? Aren't you like, we're doing something wrong as parents, maybe. Dude, this guy travels in the future. Michael J. Fox? Yeah. Then I don't believe it. This was a big thing, and I think it just went into effect actually legally today, that Booze to Go has been approved by the state of Wisconsin. Booze to Go. You know, given all the curbside pickup and all the other stuff that's kind of kept a lot of businesses open and able to stay open during the pandemic. That was the one thing. Like, if you got a place that makes great brandy old fashions, you couldn't get it. I mean, you couldn't, especially if you couldn't go inside, you couldn't get it. But now, Governor Evers has signed it into law. Booze to Go. Approved. The bill would allow bar and restaurants to sell mixed drinks and glasses of wine to go with a tamper-evident seal. The Senate approved the bill, and Evers, I believe, signed it on Friday. The second bill would allow people to order alcohol from grocery stores and taverns online by phone and pick it up in a parking space associated with the seller. Until we get delivery, this doesn't really affect me. Because you know how, like, as much as like getting food to go is nice once in a while, like, oh, we just picked it up to go. It's never the same. It's never the same if you get it in like that plastic, styrofoam fucking thing, right? It's never tastes the same when you get it back to your house. Like, how watered down is your cocktail going to be when you get it home? Like, Joe's been taking roadies for years. That's that back roads, Wisconsin, son. That's that back roads, Wisconsin. That's just how we roll, man. Double A's needs that drive-through window. Yeah, But that's like, I think there's other states, because I've seen trucks or like SUVs that are like beer delivery trucks. Like, hey, I need a 6-pack of blah, blah, blah. And they fucking deliver it to your house. That's what I need. I don't need it to go. I need it like to here, pizza, like a 6-pack. Boom. That's what I'm talking about. Was it Pizza Hut? I think that we talked about it on the show a couple months ago. I think that they had gone with, you could then order, like, if you order pizza and you pick it up, you can get like a pizza and you can get like a 6-pack. That's cool. B-Dub's been doing that for a while. Hey, we got beer to go. That's cool. I want this delivered to my house. I don't want to mess around with the driving at all, or the wait time to get back. Because you're looking at that cocktail in your seat and you're like, ice is melting. It's getting shitty. I just wonder, as great as it is, I mean, for bars and restaurants, like, what is the investment that they have to make to get like tamper-proof or tamper-evident containers? I feel like you're going to have that. I'm going to come in like a styrofoam cup with a straw in it, like a Slurpee. I don't think that's how it's going to roll. But hey, people take advantage of them, man. That's cool. That's cool. Don't think that Bill Michaels is going to join us today. Must have maybe lost the link or something like that. So I don't think we're going to have Bill, but we'll reschedule with Bill Michaels. We'll get him on another episode of the program. But if you were tuning in for him, sorry, he's not here right now. He not here. And I was wondering about this. So Bill now is his show is now syndicated through the company I used to work for like 20 years. So I wonder if they're like, you going on that fucking Cooper show? No, man, don't do it. Just say no. Could be, we didn't want you to go on and talk about radio with the old radio guy. It could be a thing. I'm just throwing it out there. I just talked to him on Friday, like, hey man, we doing this? He's like, yeah, 5:45. His boss calling him. Hey, we saw that you're like going on that show with that asshole. Like, maybe don't do it. Maybe don't respond. It could be. Hey, nothing surprises me at this point. But I digress. It's cool. We'll see what happens. We'll make it happen again some other time. It's not false advertising when the guests just no show on you. It's not. It's their fault. Coming up on tomorrow's show, Jason Charles Miller from Godhead, and he's got a new album out himself. Got his voiceover work. Tremendously talented individual. That's coming up tomorrow on the show. And also Austin Bishop, country artist, just got done playing. They did like a big show down in Talladega over the weekend. It was huge. Like, it looked like remember back in like all the way back in 2019 live shows. Yeah, that's what it looked like. But Austin Bishop, he's going to be on the show coming up tomorrow. So Super excited for that. I do see in the green room, the legend is here. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Bill Michaels is here. Hello.
I am sorry. I apologize. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for being late to the program. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So, hey, no worries about you are the busiest cat that I follow on all the social medias, man. I love it. I think it's great. The grind is nonstop, Bill.
Nah, it's one of those things where if you're ever been in a meeting with salespeople, they love to pitch and they love to talk, and they start talking and you're going over things, and all of a sudden you look down and you're like, oh my God, I'm late. I got to go. And so my apologies for being late. I have to shut my phone off there, but that's kind of what happened. So anyway, glad I'm here though.
I'm glad you are here too. Congratulations. I know 2021 has been the wildest year for you. Taking a break, coming back with a vengeance, the live stream, you got bigger things going on. Like, what has this whirlwind been like just in the first, quarter of the year?
It's been interesting because 2020 was kind of a nightmare, going through a lot of personal stuff and trying to get all of that out of the way and get it behind you. And then you kind of decide, you know what, I think I'm going to make a change. And I did, obviously, and I walked away. And then what happened was I started getting calls from individual stations and people that wanted to still listen to the program. And one thing led to another. And I said, I to be able to do this, as you have a certain amount of level of life that you have. And so when I started talking to individual stations and some in smaller markets that really wanted me to come back, I said, I didn't think they could kind of afford to do the deal and to be able to put on a network show and to do it the way I wanted to do it. And so in the meantime, I had started my own company, and I was just going to stick with podcasts and live streams, and that was going to be it. I was just going to do specialty stuff and just go out and enjoy myself for about a year. And I kept getting phone calls. And then one day, Midwest Family called and they said, hey, we'd like to bring you back, and we've got the ability to put a network together. We'd like to do it. And I had already had support from a lot of the former network stations anyway. And I said, well, this is what I'd like to do. And they said, that's fine. You go do whatever you want to do. And what would it take to get you back? So you write down a bunch of, stuff, and you say, well, and you always think, in a perfect world, I'd like this, I'd like that. And I got a text from the president that just simply said, okay. So I was like, well, I'm back, crap. So that's kind of the way it worked out. And then once you get the company going, right now this is how fast it got together. I still don't have a producer, so I'm kind of producing things myself, and I'm working with some of the guys out in Madison. The sales department has been fantastic, but I've got a dedicated guy in Joe DeGuano, and he's been fantastic, and we've been kind of conquering the world together. But when you're writing all the deals and you're doing all of this kind of stuff somewhat yourself, you're involved in every aspect of it. And I did this 10 years ago. I went through building a network 10 years ago, but I did it with other people. Now I'm kind of like a singular entity. So it's just interesting in the way it's been all coming together. But I will say this, I am no longer out and about as far as in studios and stations, and I stay at home, and that's kind of nice. So I get to keep the show here at home, stay home with the dogs and hang out during the day. But I do hit the road for sales. And once COVID lifts and we begin to open things back up, I'll get outbound traveling again. But it's been a blessing to be able to do all of this from home.
Joe DeGuano, huge fan of that gentleman. Next time you see him, ask him about his fascination with plaid shorts.
Okay, I will. As a matter of fact, he was just calling me while we were sitting here. That's what I was doing, shut my phone off, and Joe's trying to get back in touch with me. So I'll let him know.
Him and I had this thing back because I worked for Midwest Family Broadcasting up in Eau Claire for 2 decades, and every time Joe would come in, him and I were the only two human beings in like the Tri-County area that wore these like really loud plaid shorts. So it became like a unifier.
Right.
Joe and I. So next time you see him, ask him. It's probably not quite shorts weather in Wisconsin.
I'll ask him. Yet, it's not short plaid shorts, right? It's just plaid shorts. Okay.
No, we're about knee high. About knee high.
I don't want the John Stockton plaids running around out there. That's for sure.
No, nobody wants that anymore. No, we're over that. The first time I met you, Bill, it was a wild day in especially in your life. This was at the JA golf outing several years ago.
Oh yeah.
And we showing up there with the station, and I'm a sports guy at the time, introduced me to you. It was really brief. You were doing the show live out there, and literally 5 minutes after we met, there was this giant kaboom and the building shook, the lights went out, and we're like, what the hell was that?
I remember that.
And like, and things kind of go back. Who was the guest that year? It was
Kramer, Jerry Kramer.
Yeah, Jerry Kramer.
Yeah.
So we went and took our picture with Jerry and all that stuff. And all of a sudden there's a franticness, and my buddy Dan Casper, he's like, yeah, Bill just got hit by lightning. I'm like, what? like that lightning strike we just heard, that was my first face-to-face encounter with Bill Michaels, is the day that he got struck by lightning. So there's a memory.
And that was the first appearance for Jerry Kramer after he had just been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that was a big deal. I mean, that thing had sold out. Everybody was there in anticipation of Jerry. And we were outside, we were doing the show, and Jerry had just finished up as a guest, and it started to rain. And it was a tiny little thunder cell. They thought, you know what, 10 minutes, we're going to be out on the course, no big deal. And Jerry, it started to rain and lightning, and Jerry said, I better go get my golf clubs and move them under the awning there. And so thank God he got up and left. Otherwise, who knows what the hell would have happened. But Jerry got up and left. I'm sitting at the table by myself, and yes, sure enough, the lightning hit right out in front of Wild Ridge, and it's arced down those metal tables on the outside of that patio right into my fingertips and right out of my shoe, and that was it. So fried all my equipment, the computers, everything was gone.
It was a wild day. And I remember, because we, the buzz in the building was, we'd had you up there for something before, but it was, I think because it was the Jerry Kramer event, right after the induction. So it was a lot of hype and anticipation for this thing. And then I remember the after effects was like, great, we brought Bill Michaels up here and we struck him with lightning. So we're going to have to add some zeros onto the check next time we get him.
The weirdest thing was, because I got hit and I knew I'd been hit. It took me a minute to kind of realize what had happened. And one of the guys that was, remember how they had that table set up with all the different awards or prizes, the raffle items on it. And one of the guys was putting stuff in the raffle items, and he was looking out of the window over my shoulder when it happened. And he stuck his head out the door and he said, hey, did you get hit by lightning? And I said, I think so. And he said, we saw it go down the tables. And I don't know who that guy is to this day. I couldn't honestly tell you, but he said, yeah, we saw it go down the tables and it stopped at you. Are you okay? And I said, yeah, I should be good. And I knew something was wrong. I didn't feel good, So I just very quietly walked over to Tim, who's the GM over there. And I just said, hey, is there a hospital nearby? And the best part of the story was I drove down. I packed everything up myself, because remember, I didn't want to take away from Jerry's day. So I packed everything up myself, and I drove myself down to the Mayo Clinic, and I walked in, and the girl at the emergency room right behind the desk, she said, hi, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I think I was just hit by lightning. And she did one of those. She looked and she went, really? Like she didn't believe me. And I said, no, I don't make this crap up, daily and drive into hospitals. I said, yeah, I think I did. So that's when the doctors and everybody comes out and they started to look at me, and sure enough, my fingertips were all swollen up, and I didn't know it. And there was a hole in my shoe. Didn't know that. And then the doctor comes in and she says, do you care if we have a couple of other doctors observe you? And I said, yeah, that's okay. Why? And she goes, well, we've only seen about 3 or 4 of these before. And I said, well, how were those? And she goes, you don't understand. You're the only one alive. And I'm like, you can bring everybody in at this point. You can bring in a beer vendor. You can bring in a hot dog salesman. We're good with that. So yeah, it was a weird day.
That was wild. But I want to talk to you about so many things, and we'll got a dinner coming up tonight, so we'll try to touch on as many things as we can. But I always have great questions for sports people who are in sports radio, because it's such a knowledge base and an opinion, and you have to just have like this open gate of information that always comes in, because it's ever changing. But you didn't start necessarily. You started in like just regular radio, right? You did like some rock and some country and things like that.
Yeah, I did everything. I started out at a station in Rushville, Indiana. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was growing up, when everybody else in high school and such was listening to Top 40, I was always listening to sports talk. Where I grew up, there was 700 WLW, and which you can hear up here at night. Once the sun goes down, it gets larger rather than smaller, like many stations do. And we used to have a guy named Bob Trumpy. Remember, Bob Trumpy and Don Criqui were the 2 guys that used to do NBC Sports and call NBC football. And so Bob Trumpy was the sports talk show host. And I used to listen to him and call in and argue with him about stuff. So this was always kind of in my realm of what I wanted to do. But, back in the day, you got to kind of pay your dues. So I went to a little station in Rushville, Indiana, and worked my way up. And then eventually I ended up back in Cincinnati, and I did a couple things. And then I was back up in Columbus, Ohio, and did rock radio in mornings. And hell, I did sex talk radio on a country station for a very brief period of time, which was really weird with a doctor. And then from there, I got the call because the company that owned the country station had bought another station, and they were going to flip it to sports talk. And that's when they knew I was the guy. So I ended up becoming a talk show host, a programmer, all that stuff for a station in Cincinnati. And that was kind of it. That was the launching pad, and I've been doing it ever since. But when I was at WOW in Cincinnati, I went back there. It was so neat to be a kid listening to that station and then grow up and actually work there. But, because people always say, well, why didn't you stay there? Well, at the time, I had two guys ahead of me that I would have never gotten past. The two guys that were ahead of me was Chris Collinsworth and Boomer Esiason. And who knew where Chris would end up today and Boomer would end up today. But those were the two guys that were doing sports talk. I wasn't going to knock those two guys out of that chair. So, and they were pretty content in staying there forever until bigger, better things came calling. But I ended up leaving when I got the call from TMJ and the Packers. That's when I said, okay, this is it for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take off. And that's what I did.
You had on a recent episode of your show, you had talked about that move to Wisconsin and TMJ and kind of how the landscape from then on in as far as Wisconsin sports goes has really changed,
Yeah.
from County Stadium to Miller Park. Obviously the success of the Packers, the Bucks going through some the ebbs and flows that the Bucks go through, but now obviously on this upward trajectory with so much talent, and actually a city now in a market that people seemingly want to come and play in. Tell me about because it's been 2 decades, hasn't it, since you've been?
Yeah, I got here in '99, and one of my first things to ever do was I went up to Lambeau because I was going to be part of that pack. Because originally they hired me to do the sideline stuff because it was Larry McCarron doing the sideline stuff, and then Max and Jim were doing the broadcast for the Packers. And then Jim and Max decided to retire. So Wayne was hired, and there's your guy again, just an FYI. Joe's calling. Joe's going to keep calling. So
Joe should be watching.
Right? So Wayne and Larry was moving up to the booth. Wayne was going to become the play-by-play because Wayne and I got hired at the same time. And then what had happened was I was going to do the sideline stuff. Well, Ron Wolf at the time said, nope, we're not going to put anybody on the sideline anymore. They were really afraid of secrets and all that kind of stuff. So they said, okay, we're going to make you the pre and the post. And I got teamed up with Brian Noble at the time. But you think about it, we've seen the Brown County referendum. I came in when Ray Rhodes started, and it was his only year as the head coach. You had Tom Crean at Marquette, Bo Ryan at UWM. You had George Karl was taken over as the Milwaukee Bucks head coach. Phil Garner was still the manager for the Milwaukee Brewers, who were still at County Stadium, and they had just broken ground on Miller Park. So, and then obviously Barry was still the head coach out in Madison, and they were still trying to raise funds to expand Camp Randall. And now look at where we're at today. Like you had mentioned, the Bradley Center is gone. The Fiserv Forum is here. Miller Park is here. The expansion of Lambeau Field in that Titletown district is amazing. And what they've done out in Madison is nothing short of stupendous. So just how far we've come and how much we've grown in those 2 decades is amazing.
It really is. And I think when you look at the caliber, and we'll kind of jump into the sports day and age now that we're in, I mean, the level of talent that we have just in the state and MVPs. I mean, that was the last 3-4 years in a row we've had an MVP that's been playing on a franchise that's been from Wisconsin. You don't hear, even in larger markets, LA or in New York, you just don't hear about that kind of stuff. But you have the eyeballs on Wisconsin, and it's great because now they're all really watchable. There was a time when the Brewers were like, I was like, man, you wanted to root for them. And then, I think the CC year when CC came in, there was this revitalization of the Brewers and fandom down there. The Bucks, obviously, Badgers always have their passionate following, and that continues to grow. And obviously the Packers, when you have go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, life doesn't suck too much, but a lot of positives in the state as far as sports goes. So to have a year that was kind of 2020 was rough on a lot of people.
It was, this past year was so surreal and so frustrating in so many ways. I had not missed a Packers game in 20 years. And to not be able to go to Lambeau Field consistently, not to be able to go to a practice, not to be able to kind of witness things, and now you're being spoon-fed information. Same thing with the Bucks, same thing with the Brewers. To not be a part of that, it really makes what we do just opinionated radio beyond that, because you don't get that insight. You don't get to go and see those guys and get a feel for what's going on behind the scenes. So that was frustrating. As a fan, to come so close in many ways. Remember, the Badgers had just won the Big Ten and they shut everything down. The Brewers had just announced Christian Yelich signed a contract extension and everything got shut down. Baseball was arguing back and forth over money. You had, obviously, the NBA goes into the bubble, and then that really was a crash and burn for the Milwaukee Bucks. And then the Packers entice us again, but still just don't have enough pieces to get over the hump and get themselves to a Super Bowl. And let's be honest, I mean, I don't know what we would have done had they gone. You know, how do you cover the pageantry that is the Super Bowl when there really isn't pageantry? It's just the Super Bowl. So I was just talking to a buddy of mine. In the grand scheme of humanity, a year and a half has been a blip. But in the grand scheme of our lives, for what it is we do for a living, not just going out and seeing friends and being social and being able to go to restaurants and dinners and venues and theaters and such, but just for what we do in sports, it's been such a weird year to where we were to where we are today. And you hope, doing what we do for a living, it goes back to the way it was. Because I don't know how they're going to suddenly allow sports writers and sports broadcasters in the locker rooms to mix and mingle without masks, to go back to putting microphones in guys' faces. I don't know what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, or when we'll ever see that again. So what COVID has done, I think, in many ways has changed the landscape of the way we cover sports. It's also going to be one hell of a fight upon our part to be able to get back into those locker rooms and in those circumstances. It's because people say, well, why do you need to do that? It's not for the sound bites. It's not to get that. It's to be able to talk to a guy when he puts the microphone away and he says, hey, I'm talking to you about this. And then he tells you, yeah, I've been sick for the last couple of weeks, or, hey, this is going on at home. And it gives you an insight as to what's going on behind the scenes, so you have an understanding as to how a guy plays. Go back to when Travis Shaw was playing third base and have a terrific season, but he'd leave the ballpark fully in uniform, drive to Children's Hospital where his daughter was in ICU for months on end, his newborn daughter, and then he'd go back to the ballpark, shower and dress, and go play again. I mean, it was an unbelievable grind that we got an insight into for what he was going through. And in a situation like that today, we'd never see that. So just in our business alone, I hope that we progress back to the certainty of normalcy rather than, go a very slow grind. Because I think the farther away we get from that island, the worse it's going to be to try to climb back to it.
I would agree. We'll touch on a couple of the big sports topics. Obviously, the announcement coming out that Barry Alvarez is going to be stepping down as AD of University of Wisconsin. Big for a guy who really changed that university. He changed how sports is looked at from the Badgers as far as the football program and recruiting and all the. I mean, it seems like Wisconsin always has the next big running back ready to go, and that has a lot to do with Barry and his ties out in Jersey and just the way that he recruited and the environment that he created in Madison. How big of an impact does it have him stepping down?
Well, I think it's huge in the sense that I call Barry kind of not only a good coach, but he's that leader. He's that general that, he's going to make a mistake every now and then, and he'll own it and then change it and say, okay, let's go in this direction. But he's the guy that, everybody can follow into battle, and he's the guy that's going to lead the way in many circumstances. He's the guy that gets on the competition committee and they listen to him. He's the guy that gets behind closed doors for the college football playoff system and they listen to him. He's the guy that when hey, Anderson wasn't the guy, and right away he said, okay, this isn't going to work and this isn't our style of football. Brings back Paul Chryst. He had respect for Paul Chryst, is not to go after him once he took over the Pittsburgh program. So there's a guy that had some integrity. There's a guy that led in the right way. There's a guy that whether you believed in what he was doing right or wrong, he still got results. Mm-hmm. And then since then, you've seen volleyball, hockey, basketball, football, all excel, all the major money sports for the most part. And he's done extremely well. So I think his leadership and his presence alone will be missed. And I think that probably more so than anything is what we're going to remember the most.
We have, of course, the NFL talking about going to 17 games. That's been kind of on the minds and mouths of a lot of people. Adrian Amos, of course, famously saying we agreed to this on Twitter. So there's that is out there with the owners' meetings coming up, and obviously the NFL draft around the corner. But there's so much going on in Green Bay, and you've mentioned it on the show before. Kind of a PR nightmare that's happening with the handling of Aaron Rodgers and what that means for the team and the all-in, putting all your chips in the middle of the table for what is probably going to be the last year, maybe two of his time in Green Bay. What is the latest that you're hearing that's going on there, and what are your feelings as we get closer to April in the draft and the direction this team is kind of chosen to go during the offseason?
It's funny because for people that I trust, I get two different stories. So I don't think even people that are really close know specifically what is going to happen. I think the way this plays out is the Packers are going to figure out what it is they need. They're going to go to Aaron and say, okay, this is what we need, and give us this amount. So that way you're not kicking as much down the road, so to speak, as far as money goes. And it still gives you that out. It still gives you that ability. Now, Aaron has always stated he wanted to remain in Green Bay and retire here, and he wants to go down as the greatest Packer quarterback to ever play. So to do that, he would need at least one or two more Super Bowls for him to kind of rise. We know as a quarterback, just physically playing the position, he's been the best. He's the most Surgeon-esque like performer we've ever seen. Brett had the heart of a lion, and Bart had the unbelievable leadership skills. And had he not gotten injured, certainly Lynn Dickey might have been in that conversation.
Right.
But Aaron really did. I haven't talked to him in the last year, but did want to be considered that. So whether or not he looks at it as a legacy builder, or he's so pissed off at the organization for the Jordan Love pick, for the way they've kind of tried to push him, so to speak, then maybe he's just completely said to hell with it, and that was the reason for his comments at the end of the season. But I got to think at some point the realization is going to be, and the way it's been described to me is they're playing a game of chicken and nobody's blinking right now. And Aaron Rodgers has all the power. The organization doesn't. So Aaron would be the guy that probably initially needs to blink and say, okay, this is what we'll do. Or the organization needs to come to him and say, we'll go ahead and give you a contract extension. What do you want? But if I'm Aaron, at this point, like many have said, why do I want to believe? Because I have taken pay cuts before, at least taken the extension before, and we've kicked some money down the road only to turn around and we're not really buying guys. We're buying retreads and bargain basement bin guys, and then you cross your heart and hope that they're going to pan out. I mean, when you look at free agency, had they said, hey, Aaron, we want this guy, and this guy, and we want to bring in a Richard Sherman or a Patrick Peterson, and we want to bring in this, then maybe he goes, you know what, okay. But I don't know right now. The way I would look at it is they're going to do just enough to bring in the guys they want, not push so much of that money down the road, and then keep their options open for a year or two. I mean, who knows? If Aaron's not going to have another MVP season this year, historically, it'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. But let's say in 2 years that he does, then what? How would you kick him out, having Jordan Love sitting there and waiting, and you really don't know what you have in the guy, but you're going to kick out the MVP? That's one of the stupidest things you could ever do as a general manager. That's going to be the rest of your legacy. So I get a feeling that's going to be kind of the way it plays out, but I think we're in somewhat of a stalemate right now, and I wouldn't expect anything anytime soon. But then again, they fooled me before.
How many players away do you think they are from winning an NFC championship game? I mean, nobody can argue with the success that Matt LaFleur's had in his first two seasons. I mean, nobody expected 13-3. Nobody expected 13-3 again. And then obviously knocking on the door of 2 Super Bowls over the last 2 seasons. Many franchises would not argue with that kind of success. I know we're right over here, but close to the Minnesota border. They would die to have that kind of success back-to-back seasons or in a season by itself. How many players away is this team with Aaron at the helm? Obviously, you have Aaron Jones back in the backfield, and the restructure for Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. They did a lot of things on defense to keep the squad together. But how many players are they away from being a team that can go in and say beat a Tampa, who is obviously putting all their chips in again this year, and take it to where they're actually playing for LaGuardia Trophy again?
I would say 3, and people would probably be mad at me for saying not one of them is an offensive player. I think you need another cover corner, somebody that's veteran savvy. Even though Kevin King at times, when he's healthy, can play extremely well, I think he got caught looking into the backfield, and that's one of the things that we had seen with him throughout the season, that if he gets caught looking, he'll get burned over the top. And sure enough, he did just before halftime in the NFC Championship game. I think that they need a really good cover linebacker, and you need another big body up next to Kenny Clark. Now, people will say, well, you've got Kiki and you've got Rashawn Gary and Za'Darius, and they're going to mix and match. But Joe Barry, for the system that he's coming from, likes to play 3, even 4 down linemen and put pressure on the quarterback and cut off cutback lanes for the run, and then your cover corners do the job. So that's the way they, or at least he's shown that he likes to approach this. So you're going to need another guy. I remember when Dom Capers got here, Ted said, what do you need? He said, I need a strong center. I need a strong middle linebacker. I need one pass rush outside linebacker, and I need a strong cover corner. And he got them. You know, he went out and got those guys. So I think that's where they're at right now. Jair is considered one of the best now, one of the top 5 in the league. You need another guy alongside him, depth back there. But if everybody stays healthy on the offense, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to do what they did last year with the amount of play action and the way Aaron got comfortable on the run. So I would expect the offense to maybe take a little bit of a step back, but not much. But the defense really needs to take a big step up.
I'll get you out of here with this one. Obviously, opening day coming up this week. Baseball is back. It feels good. That was one of the weirdest voids, I think, obviously outside of the NCAA tournament not happening last year, to not have, especially in Wisconsin, when we lived through 3, 4, 5, 6 months of winter, the sign that spring is here and that better times are coming is when baseball starts. Didn't happen last year. It's happening this week with the return of opening day. How are you feeling about the Brewers this year? They got their starting rotation on point. Looks like the back end of that bullpen is solidified, and Hader being like a genuine closer again. How are you feeling about the Brew Crew this year as we look for the NL Central title again?
I'm excited. I think the Cubs, while they still have names, I still want to see what they do with a full season of Ross as their manager after getting rid of Joe Madden, because last year was a short litmus test and they weren't necessarily a really solid ball club. Getting rid of Schwarber, trying to shore things up in that fashion. We'll see what they got. They got a lot of arms that have had success, but whether or not they can put it all together, we'll wait and see. I still think that the Cardinals are going to be the team to beat, but I love the Brewers for the fact that they have got 4 really good outfielders. They've got depth. Their infielders are extremely solid. They've got depth. Third base is probably going to be the question mark. Keston Hiura, the way he's starting to hit the ball and hit with power, excites me. I think they've got a good catching battery. So it's going to come down to, obviously, their starting pitching. I think they're at least 3 deep, and if you get to the postseason, you need 4. So 3 deep being what it is, I like their chances. And we know what the back end of that bullpen is going to be. And if Devin Williams continues with just that changeup being that devastating, going from 96, 97 down to about 85 with a break that falls off the table, they're going to be really good. I think it's going to come down to their hitability of the middle relief, and then obviously being able to kind of sabermetrically put the numbers together through K Council to get you the best matchups, because they've got left, right right now in their lineup, the way it's set up. And I think that they're going to be formidable in the National League. And remember, they've got a great American ballpark, Wrigley Field, and obviously AmFam. So 3 hitters ballparks for a team that can hit the ball. I'm excited to see what they can do.
Well, it's exciting times, and year-round sports is back, and we're excited to keep up with things. Bill Michaels at the Bill Michaels at Bill_Michaels. He's on all the socials. You can find him on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. He's joined the Twitch revolution. We're so proud that you're part of the Twitch thing too. And congratulations on the success, not only of the live stream and the podcast, but the networks. It sounded great on the show. And I'm really glad we got a chance to catch up, my friend.
I'm appreciative so much. And I apologize for being late. And you ask me anytime, I'll be 15 minutes early next time. I'll be Lombardi time.
Lombardi time. They're late is on time.
Late is, yes, being on time. 15 minutes early is that's when you're supposed to be there. So we'll go with Lombardi time next time.
It's awesome. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Have a good dinner tonight, and go Brewers. Got a big opening game coming up. I know you're doing some fun stuff for opening day. Is that right?
Yeah, you know what? It's going to be 40 degrees, and we're not going to be at the ballpark, so I think we're going to do some stuff here at the house and do some grilling out and just try to make it as fun of an atmosphere as we possibly can for those that are either paying attention or listening to the program, just like we did last year. And then eventually we'll all be back down at Miller Park or down at American Family Field sooner rather than later.
Awesome. Bill Michaels, thank you very much, my friend. Take care, and talk soon.
Talk to you soon. Thanks.
There we go. Bill Michaels on Cooperville Live. Glad we got a chance to catch up. And that's right. He can be late anytime. I felt bad. I was talking shit. I was like, yeah, maybe my old boss was like, don't go on that show. But no, great to catch up with Bill. We got a couple of comments we'll get on here. Yeah. Friday's always great, Jeremy. That's when he does the chug challenge. Does the chug challenge at the end. It's good stuff. The big unit, indeed. Bill Michaels on the show. Glad we got a chance to catch up. It was weird. I was just about to kind of close down the show, and then I'm like, boop, oh, he's here. So very cool. I'm glad we got a chance to catch up. A lot of great insight. I think Bill and I can go back and forth talking sports and stuff for a long time. And he's doing all the cool things. He's taken like the aspect of radio and in evolving it into the live stream show, and he's still out doing on location stuff. And to be able to be like, here's what I want to do, here's the show I want to have, and I'm going to do it from my house because I don't want to come into the studio. Like, that's making it happen. So good for him. And congratulations to Joe DeGuano too, my buddy Joe, rocking them plaid shorts and doing sales for Bill Michaels. So very cool stuff. We'll get Bill back on here. I'm sure we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about. Maybe we'll get him on right on the draft, and then mid-season, maybe all-star break, do some stuff like that. We'll try to schedule it out. As I was saying before, and I threw my notes over here, Jason Charles Miller from Godhead is going to be on tomorrow, as well as country artist Austin Bishop. That is your Tuesday lineup of guests right here on Cooperville Live. Wherever you're watching, thank you. Make sure you subscribe. If you're on Facebook, jump over to YouTube. We got our vanity name now. We got the youtube.com/Cooperville Live. That is up and running. And then Twitch, search No Limit Cooper, which is right there. And follow us on the Twitch too. So appreciate all you watching. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy your Monday night. We'll be back in and do it all on a Tuesday. Until we meet again,